All right, my friends, welcome to episode 413 of Prof and Dev Play Games. It's wild that when I hit the record button, it was 4 minutes and 13 seconds of our Skype call, so it's serendipity. I'm Larry. I am the professor, and I play games. And over there's Anthony, the dev, and he makes games and also plays games. We are enjoying ourselves at the end of this 2023. I am enjoying myself a lot tonight because, Anthony, I have a list of games, and they are not ranked. And I can't.
Oh, no.
I can't rank them. So you know what I did? I decided to drink. I said, I can't decide. I'm going to drink, and whatever comes out is going to come out. So,
Oh, boy.
yes, I'm on my third cocktail. This old-fashioned mix that my wife got me for Christmas is delicious. It is like a very good old-fashioned. And I thought this would be the solution. And you know what? It's not.
It's not. Shockingly, alcohol is not the solution to
a surprise.
almost any problems.
You can't medicate with it. You can't solve your problems with it. What the hell is the use of alcohol? How are you doing, Anthony?
Specifically fun.
Yes. That's true. Well, it is New Year's Eve, so happy New Year's Eve to folks. I'm going to publish this. Go ahead.
Yeah, happy New Year's Eve, and I guess so people will listen to this on New Year's.
Yeah, I'm going to publish it after we record tonight, so it'll be published on our New Year's Eve, and, you know, wherever you are in the world, happy New Year's.
Yeah, it's
2024. It's going to be a wild
year. Oh, no. I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. Let's just...
Me neither.
Just gonna spend a few more lovely hours in 2023.
Exactly. Let's enjoy the duality of this year.
Yeah.
Talking about amazing games, but also reflecting on the amount of layoffs and, you know.
Yeah. That website was insane.
That have affected it. Yeah. It was what was the website URL again? Wrap up.
Yeah, it's like wrapped.games.
There it is. Wrapped.games. That's a pretty good summary of the fucking bullshit of this year in terms of game industry side, people and tech as well, losing their jobs.
Yeah, the thing is like whenever I saw the number of tech jobs, I was like, games is bad.
Yeah. Tech was way worse.
But when you see all of tech and you're just like, that's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who's in tech who got laid off and is still looking. It's fucking rough.
I mean, that page, I was like, oh yeah, Meta/Facebook laid off 21,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
It's really sad.
It is. I'm like, what did they do wrong? You shouldn't ever need to lay that many people off.
Well, it wrapped that.
That's just such a mismanagement on much on some of these tech companies. Like, holy cow.
And it brings into sharp relief the amount of money, the compensation that executives get.
Oh, yeah.
And that's holding, it's not just flat, it's going up, you know, and they're trying to, you know, I don't know, preserve the bottom line by cutting workers and, you know.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating. Anyway, so 2023 was rough. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But also some pretty fucking great games. Unbelievable games came out this year. And I do want to start by giving my daughter's top 5. I asked her what her top 5 was.
Okay.
And her number 5 was Mario Odyssey, which I don't believe we played this year, but that's okay. Number 4 was Pizza Possum, which we did, which actually was probably one of my top gaming moments that I talked about previously, where we beat that together and pushed through. Number 3 was Super Mario Wonder.
Okay.
Number 2 was any Legend of Zelda game.
Okay.
And then number 1, it doesn't matter. We played Skyward Sword. We played Breath of the Wild. We played Tears of the Kingdom. Didn't matter. Any of those, any Legend of Zelda game.
A Zelda game.
Exactly. And can you guess what her number 1 was? I wonder if you would know.
It's going to be, is it the Paper Mario game?
It's not, but that'd be great.
I was expecting it.
The amount
of times you played through that one.
Yeah. It's an indie game. I'll give you a hint. It's an indie game. We played through it this year. I played through it last year. It's published by Annapurna. I can't give you better clue than that.
No. Popular indie game? They get a physical release?
I think so. Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay, then I don't know.
Okay, I'll repeat this. It was published by Anna Per. No.
Oh, Stray. And it
There you
does
go.
have a physical release. You lied to me.
Does it really?
Yeah, it got a physical release.
Shit. Okay, I take it back. I led you.
You led me astray because I was gonna say it, and then I was like, I need to know if it got that or not. And
Oh shit! I take
you
it back.
completely screwed me up with false information. Cool.
That's because I'm kidding. Her number one was Alan Wake 2.
There you go. See, you're already starting the misinformation early. Thanks.
Exactly.
I had a few more hours, right?
Yes, we haven't hit 2024 yet. We don't need misinformation yet. I will just blame the old fashions.
There you go.
But anyway, that's my daughter's. She wanted to participate, and there you go. So if you're new to the podcast, please welcome. And the way we do our game of the year is we each have a list of 5, which is wild for this year. And they are assigned points. So number 5 on our list gets 1 point. Number 4 gets 2. Number 3 gets 3. Number 2 gets 4. Number 1 gets 5. And then we do math. And then math determines the winner. We don't do the giant bomb fighting. We do math. But we have our individual lists. And what a banner year. We usually start with what's the phrase I'm looking for? Not consolidation prize, but runners up or
honorable mentions.
Thank you. That's the phrase. Honorable mentions. Anything about our process or the year before we get into the meat of the games?
No, I will say that cutting it to 5 was a process. I would say that numbers 1 through 3 for me were pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
The order of 1 through 3 kind of moved around a little bit. 4 and 5 and the honorable mentions jumped around a lot.
Yes, I agree.
So it's a pretty stellar year of games, I'm gonna say.
Even this whole list is just amazing. And before we get into the meat of it, I do want to just thank you, Anthony, for, if you can believe it, 8 years of this podcast.
Nope.
Started at the beginning of 2016. Nope. You and I together, I started in October.
It was only last year. We only started last year. I mean,
time is fucking weird. But I was just reflecting on it today, and just 8 years of this is wild, and that's very cool. And I want to thank you again. I know I've done it before, but this has been really great, and I love talking to you every Sunday. I look forward to it. I've been looking forward to this podcast for weeks now with trepidation because, like you said, the top 3 are locked in. I still don't know what order, but I think the top 3 are pretty obvious. So
I had to go back and play a bit of one game, just give it a couple hours today, just to see if it stayed where I think. Yeah, it stayed. It stayed. We'll get to it.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. Do you want to start with your honorable mentions then?
Sure. I only have 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because there are a few, I should say there are some games that I would like to play that could potentially be on this list. I didn't play.
You know what?
Or watch. And I really am like, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting them on the list.
And those are not your honorable mentions, right?
No, because I just haven't played them. Like they're just side things that I'm like, oh, these look great. But
let's do 3 lists then, because I have a couple too that I didn't touch that I wish I would have, because I think it would have been great. So do you have a couple of those?
Yeah. Some which I will likely probably be buying tonight or tomorrow in the Steam. One of mine is Against the Storm.
Oh yeah.
Which is it's such a weird game. It's hugely popular on Steam, like incredibly, like overwhelmingly positive, 95% all reviews. It is a city builder, but a roguelike city builder.
So how does that work? What does that mean?
I don't even know. That's why I don't even want to. I haven't read too deeply into how this mechanically plays. I've just seen how many people love it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's just like you don't always have the same options every time you play. And you get presented with some randomness and choices being made. And of course the map's different it's kind of Civ-like in that way.
Right.
I don't know, but I've seen a few. I saw it in early access earlier this year. Looked intriguing. It came out, and I've been on my wish list, and I've just seen the praise for it, and I love roguelikes. I like city builders. Um, and
Like, put them together.
and then people clearly like the execution of it,
Yeah.
and how they're integrating this, and I'm like, all right, this is high on my list of games I want to try, and likely would have probably been on this list.
Right.
I'll just go through there's probably only two more that come to my head. Super Mario Wonder.
Oh my God.
I just got a time. I mean, it just came out when there's a lot of other games out. And it's hard for me to find the time for it. But I really would like to play Wonder. I have a feeling it would be on my. Actually, I can't guarantee it would be in my top 5 or not. But it looks incredible. Mechanically, looks very, very neat. You have spoken, and you're not the only one I've heard spoken about this. The bosses are kind of blah, or like the weak link of the game. But so much else of it looks pretty incredible. And I'd really love to play that. And then one that we have talked about before that mostly in the sense of, is this indie or not? But I still want to play Dave the Diver. People seem to love that freaking game.
Yes. Yep.
And supposedly it has like a pretty... It's not just all fluffy. It actually has some compelling themes to the story, which I didn't know about. I've just heard allusions to like, hey, it's deeper than you think. Diving deep. Ha ha. Great.
Hilarious.
But it makes me curious on that front. I'm sure there's another probably half dozen games I would love to be playing this year that may be on this list, but that seems fine for the moment.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Following in that vein, I'm just gonna list a couple of games that if I had played more of or had played at all, I think these would have been on my list or been contenders. And just going through the names: In Stars and Time, Sea of Stars, Shadow Gambit. Right. Hi-Fi Rush. I played at the beginning of the year. I played probably
that was
for
this year.
It was this year. Yeah, it was January maybe.
It was January. It was like the very beginning of January.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. But then for whatever reason, I didn't continue with it. Chance of Senar. I started with my wife, and it takes a lot to get into in terms of deciphering the language. But I feel like that's a me game. If I had played more of it. And then Metroid Prime Remastered. I never played Metroid Prime. I think I loved it. And then Mario RPG, which is actually I'm going home this next month, and I'm going to be bringing my Switch only. I'll be playing Mario RPG. So those are the ones that if I had played, one of those would have been on my list. Probably Shadow Gambit, to be honest, of all those.
I've heard great things about that one.
It looks like it's so up my fucking alley, like a stealth fucking tactics game.
Yeah. That was the company. Well, they don't exist anymore.
Mini-Me.
They like closed after releasing this game.
They did. Yep. They released it.
Which is crazy to me.
Yep.
Shadow Tactics, which I've played at least some of, which is like a samurai Japan stealth action-y game type thing. Same concept as Shadow Gambit. Just feudal Japan, not pirates. I feel like that was the one that got that company on the like map, and how they've kind of, I think they did Desperados 3 as well.
They did. Yeah, that was their second one.
They basically just this is a genre that existed that kind of had fallen by the wayside, and they kind of really reinvigorated it and made 3 pretty incredible games in that genre, and then they're just done. They're like, nope, we've done what we've meant to do in the genre. I don't even know. I haven't looked up why they closed.
Well, it was a lot of there's an interview recently where they're talking about how it's not so much they've done everything they can do, it's just that they're in a niche, and they're in such a niche.
They definitely are niche.
Yeah, they can't sell enough to make it worth it.
I see.
And their family life is taking a toll, etc.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I agree.
But yeah.
So those are honorable or not even those are not our honorable mentions. Those are the ones that we have not played that maybe they would have made our list. But you have two honorable mentions.
I have two honorable mentions, which will be kind of, I think one, you're going to be surprised potentially that it's honorable mention, but it is. First one is Honkai Star Rail. Put hundreds of hours into this game. It did come out this year. It came out in, I think, in end of January last year.
Right.
And yeah, great game. I still boot it up every once in a while. It is your free-to-play gacha, and I think after a while I just burn out of those. I can't do a lot of them all at once, and then it's just like I get annoyed with like, oh, log in every day to get your stuff or whatnot. Yep. But it did have a pretty great story. And it had, the music was great. The production values are insane. Like when people, again, the same way as Genshin, it's the same company that Genshin. People are like, oh, it's just a mobile game. I'm like, this is not a mobile game. You can play it on mobile, but the production values and the way it plays are not mobile in any way, shape, or form. I would say playing it on mobile is an inferior experience. Honkai easier than Genshin because Honkai is turn-based battles, turn-based JRPG style combat, where Genshin is action. And I'm like, but either one, these are not games that I find particularly suited to mobile phone play. But I guess a lot of people also play Fortnite on mobile, so what do I know?
Right.
I'm just not of that generation and don't have the training to use a touchscreen for those type of games. But that was one. Just high production values. Does have some of the best music that I've of this year. It's up there. And the other one that's an honorable mention that was really flipping between spot number 5 or being honorable mention. I did put hundreds of hours into it this year. Diablo 4.
Doesn't
make the cut. Okay. Doesn't make the cut.
Shit, this is a wild year.
It's really good. Like I really enjoy it. I've spoken to the tedium of the in-game. And really it's just the itemization of the in-game. I don't actually have problem with the activities. They could be a little bit more varied, but it was mostly for me the in-game just kind of falls down because I just the amount of analysis I have to do on items if I'm going to use them or not just really slows me down.
Right.
There's a lot of things they can address there, and I bet they will. But from like gameplay standpoint, I put almost 200 hours into it. I went through the entire campaign. I've leveled 2 characters to end. One of which I got to close to level 80 in this last season, the Season of Blood, which is going on right now. Everything is distinct. Like it nails the thing that Blizzard has always been great with their action RPGs. The classes feel distinct. You do definitely have like pick the class you want and you get that fantasy, and they nail that fantasy. Where a lot of action RPGs don't do that, or don't do that well. Like all the classes kind of feel the same. Not here. They nail that. It's polished beyond belief. Best looking action RPG on the market so far.
Oh man, it really is beautiful.
Smooth animations, very responsive. It just feels, the moment to moment gameplay feels amazing. But it just wasn't quite there for my top 5. The story is much improved from 3. Like, I think the storytelling is actually pretty great. I think it falters later on at times. It still lands very well at the end. I just remember a couple parts where I'm just like, my God, can we just move on, please?
Well, it has like 6 acts, right?
I know. There's a couple acts where I'm just like, I'm done. Come on. Let's move this along, please. But overall, enjoyed it quite a bit. I will continue to probably play that through 2024 as new seasons come out, and at least try them. And I feel like I think they're doing the expansion is in 2024 as well, so I'm sure I'll return to it for that.
Yeah, it's late 2024 is when the first expansion comes out. Yeah,
so it's probably 2 more seasons, and then the expansion will launch with a new season.
Yeah.
And we'll see what they do. I feel like they will continue to improve it, most likely. And now it's under Microsoft, so we'll see. Now that Kotick is out the door.
I was saying Kotick's gone, which I'm sorry, not safe for work. very erotic. But he's fucking
Sure.
gone. 2 days now. He left on the 29th. So
Yep,
yay.
he's gone. Left on Friday, and he's out. And now we get to see what Microsoft does with these properties, and this
Exactly.
and what this looks like over the next year as Microsoft is guiding the continued production of this game. So
I would just love to see cross pollination where, Halo devs work on COD, COD devs work on Halo, and whatever else, But I'm excited to see what they do with Diablo 4, of course.
they need to give Halo to one of those COD teams.
They do.
There's
agree.
a dozen studios that work on work on COD.
Toys for Bob.
Just give one of those companies. Just be like, hey, you do Halo now, or
Yep,
try
exactly.
make a Halo, even if it's a spin-off. They're like, fine, this isn't Halo 6 or is Infinite 6? Infinite.
Yeah, it is. Yes, correct.
So don't do the next main line. Do a spin-off. You get to do a spin-off, an ODST kind of
ODST
spin-off type
2.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
just honestly, the COD developers could probably do a pretty awesome ODST spin-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's hoping that something there will happen over the next few years. But those are my 2 honorable mentions.
Awesome. Well, I have a few more than 2. So I'm going to go with the one for there's a couple for sure that are honorable mentions, and there's a couple that I don't know until I say it. So let's see what happens. First one, I think just like I think it was a year ago, Connections from the New York Times is an honorable mention. I play it every night with my wife. Have you played Connections?
Nope. Haven't even heard of it.
Really? What the fuck rock have you lived under? So it's a grid. It's a grid of 4x4 words, and you've got to group the words into groups of 4 and 4 groups of 4, and each group of 4 is something connects the words. So you might have something like evil, iniquity, and a couple other words, and the connection is den of iniquity, den of evil, whatever. So that connects those words. Another word might be motherboard, CPU, whatever, words that connect to a computer. It's usually not that obvious. They're usually words that there are, because you're trying to make a group of 4, there's usually 5, and one of them belongs to a different group, and it kind of fucks with you. And you're trying to think of secondary and tertiary definitions of words, or how the words work in phrases. It's a really like a thoughtful word game. So much like Wordle, Connections has taken the puzzling world by storm, and it's been just really fun to play and introduce people to Connections, and just compare answers, and it's been a lot of fun. So it's played on a screen, so technically it's a video game, I suppose, but it is a very fun word game. Next one, the next 2 are games that I finished last night. One is Venba. It was only an hour and a half, and it's about Indian immigrants who live in Canada who have a child in Canada. So that child is navigating being Indian, being Tamil, and being Canadian, and really pushing back against being Indian and Tamil roots and wanting to be Canadian, to the chagrin of parents, and the parents kind of trying to keep the child rooted to Indian culture through food. So the gameplay is you are navigating a recipe book, trying to create food, trying to create traditional Indian food, like really traditional.
Okay.
There's no tikka masala. There's no like Americanized Indian food. It's like Indian food. Trying to make it in the right order, make the food for the kid, and then eventually you fast forward, spoilers for people who have not played this game, you eventually fast forward to the kid who's experiencing life as an adult and realizing he wants to connect more with his Indian roots, and starts making the food himself and navigating the recipes that way. It was the story of an immigrant family with a child wrestling with being between 2 cultures, and it was superb. Really well told, really short, tight, 90-minute experience. That was really affecting for me, and I played half of it with my daughter, and she really enjoyed the story as well. So that's another one. And then another one I finished last night is just a pure fun, almost arcadey kind of game, Marble It Up Ultra, which is like it sounds, you are a marble. And there are 6 worlds. Each world has 15, 12, levels, and they're progressively getting harder and harder. You're trying to get through the level, get to the goal, navigating as a marble. Think Marble Madness, but more forgiving. Trying to navigate to the end of the course, and the courses get more and more maniacal, but never ever unfair. It actually really felt on the easy side, even at the very end. Like I think they erred on the side of being generous with checkpoints, being generous with lanes where you need to roll through. They weren't so narrow that you couldn't possibly get through it. So that was good. And now I'm at the point where I have to fucking decide. Next for honorable mentions is, and I can't believe I'm doing this, is Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem Engage, tactically, I think is maybe one of the best in the series. The tactical aspects of the game, the maps were amazing, but everything else wasn't. The story was rough. I think we've talked about it quite a bit.
The story so
much. The story really kind of fucking
why is it
sucked.
even an honorable mention for me? Because I hate the story that much.
Yeah, right. The story, this one's so hard because if the story was just even serviceable, like to a Diablo 3 level, like I think it'd be in my top 5. And this one's one that was teetering on the edge for a while. But everything else sucked about that game. The wandering around the area and talking to people and leveling up your character, whatever, getting the new abilities or leveling up your character through the fucking, you go into the door and you're like in this fucking ether zone, like leveling up your character through fighting. It all fucking sucked. But the maps and the tactics were like the fucking best. And I loved the mechanic of getting the rings and, having the old people join you. But if I didn't have the DLC, I wouldn't have had a great experience because they get ripped away from you and you have to fucking do it all on your own. This core mechanic is gone. But because I paid for the DLC, I'm able to have a stronger team and a better experience and able to just continue like I was before because those DLC characters don't get ripped away. Which was odd to have that mechanic pulled away. But then if you paid for it, it's almost like pay to win, really.
It's 100% pay to win. It's not even kind of, it is.
Okay, yeah, right.
But it is also a single player game, so
exactly. So
not like
really
you
robbing yourself as yourself.
Yeah, but it is definitely it's a choice. There's a lot of odd choices in Engage, I will say.
Yeah, and they overshadowed the fact that the tactics were so fucking good. Those maps were amazing. I enjoyed every second of it. I put 45 hours into this game. It's the game that I was looking forward to the most this year, and it opened the year for us. And I just had so much fun with it when I was playing the maps, and everything else I didn't. And it's just like, it fell off the fucking list at the end here. That's crazy. Okay, one more decision I have to make. The last honorable mention is Diablo 4. And I think it's the honorable mention only because I'm only through Act 1. I haven't gotten further. But I've been trying in the last week really to start sampling different games from 2023 that I hadn't yet touched or hadn't yet finished. And Diablo 4 is the one that I played the most. And it's really fucking good. Like the moment-to-moment gameplay is fun. I really like the story so far. Like the end of Act 1 where Vigo is the fucking knight and it has this mechanic where you have to stay in his radius to not be hurt by the... I thought that was all really well done and something I hadn't really seen in Diablo. It was maybe more of I don't know if it comes from World of Warcraft, like a mechanic like that or something like that, but it's not, it doesn't feel germane to Diablo, but it feels like a nice evolution of Diablo gameplay. And the story is really nice. I really don't like the skill tree. There's too much going on. Trying to min max my rogue feels rough. Like I'm, relying on guides to kind of think about where do I really put my points. And I wish I could just rely on just put points into something and play it and see what it feels like and then, respec. But it just feels, the skill tree feels overwhelming in a Path of Exile Junior sort of way. So that kind of knocks it a little bit for me. But I'm excited to get back to this game. I think if I had played more, it might have hit my list. But it just didn't. And I'm surprised because I think an hour ago I thought it would have. So those are my honorable mentions.
All right. Well, D4, you didn't make either list for us. So
no, yeah. Which is crazy because you are an ARPG nut.
I am, and I really enjoy
Diablo,
it as an ARPG person. I think there's a lot of merits to it. Weirdly for me, I actually find the skill tree not overwhelming. I just find it kind of boring.
Mm.
Like it's not a highlight for me of the game. Like they've pulled a lot of the place the stuff out of the skill tree, and it items matter so much more. The itemization is so much more important in D4 than what skills you have in your skill tree. Because you just
Interesting.
really you just find the skills that you like, and then you just find the items with the legendary powers that boost those skills.
Yeah, that's right.
And some of the legendary powers just completely change the skills. So that's how, but it definitely focuses on what I found the loop to be is very focused on those legendary powers on items, which makes the itemization tedious because you get a new piece of gear and you're like, okay, it's a rare piece. Does all these things has the stats that does it have the stats that I want? Check one. Oh, it does. Okay. Do I have the ability to put the legendary power I want on it? Because I'm going to probably be replacing a piece that has a legendary power that I'm using. Oh, I don't? Okay. Is that legendary power something that I can grind from a dungeon and make sure that like I just get it in my codex to put on something? Yeah. No? All right. I just have to grind until something drops with that power so I can disenchant it, take the power and put it on and imprint it onto this new thing. It just makes like leveling up in-game itemization take so long and so annoying to keep that all balanced for your build and being like, well, crap, I have this great new item that dropped that has all the stats I want, but I don't have the power to put on it, so I can't swap it out right now. So I guess I'll just put this in storage until I get that power.
Do you think that's something they're going to
I don't know. They need to figure. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they tweak things. It doesn't help that there's the other tedium with itemization is there's a lot of different stats now. A lot as you go in there. Like all sorts of weird stuff. I could list them out, and it's like certain gear can have all of them. Some gear can have subsets of these, and they're very weirdly specific. So it takes a lot to figure out what you need. It's like damage versus slow demis, damage versus this type. There's very rarely just like straight good stats. It's always very situational. And there's a lot of that situational, which makes it kind of, I get what they're trying to do is they want to split power down a bit. But my God, whenever you're actually like looking for gear, the amount of time you have to spend, okay, all the stats, which ones do these have? Okay. Do I care about any of these?
I feel like the stat ramp is also very incremental, at least where I'm at least right now, which is only through Act 1. Where
it scales pretty hard.
Does it eventually get ramp up pretty hard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because right now it's just like 2.1. Now it's like 2.2. Okay.
Yeah, that stuff. There's a lot of the small stuff, but I mean, yeah, later stuff gets quite a bit higher than that.
Okay. Okay. Because it's less exciting to get new stuff right now. I'm like, oh, it's a new yellow. No, it's just the same as my one I have now. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But yeah, doesn't make it a lot that can probably change there, and a lot that probably will. I bet the expansion is where they'll change a lot of that stuff.
It'll be like the Reaper of Souls moment.
Kind of, yeah. That gives them a big chance to like put in big changes, as opposed to seasons are kind of just massaging what's there.
Right.
Well, cool.
We are into our top 5. Oh shit!
Can you actually do this?
I can now because for me it was the bubble. Now I'm through the bubble, so now I'm good. No, I'm not. The top 3 are still not set.
Okay.
But I can do the bottom. You give us your 5.
All right.
Your number 5.
My number 5, and this is the one that I think earlier today just bumped Diablo 4 out because I really thought about it and I was like, which one do I look back? Well, I may not have spent as much time with it. Do I look back more fondly on in my time with it? And it's Octopath Traveler 2.
Nice. I was hoping that was going to be on your list.
I mean, I did spend like 100 hours in it.
Yeah.
But it's everything I loved about the first game improved in every way. It has much better genre stories for all the characters that mesh together in nice ways. The stories have chapters that will cross over. You'll have neat chapter interactions between party members and different characters. So you're like, oh, these people and their stories matter to each other. It was very nice. It was a nice little touch there. But I would say the stories themselves are also much more diverse than the first game. Like I said, they're deep genre stories. They're tropey for whatever genre they are. Like the thief story, which is very noirish, and then you have like the frontier town gunslinger merchant story that just it pulls from a lot of genre tropes, but they execute them really well. I liked all the characters. There's just 8 great characters this time. There wasn't one that I was like, man, I hate having to use this character. I'm like, I really enjoyed all the characters. And they did some fun stuff with, I would say, subverting expectations. You're like, you have your cleric, and you're like, oh, there's a nice subversion of that character, what a cleric is, and like the holy, not warrior. They're not really a warrior, but the very pious. Like, what does that mean? And they do a nice way on that. Honestly, if you've watched now a couple episodes of Furin, reminds me of kind of like the priest there.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is just not, you're like, yes, a priest, but not the most. They're kind of devout, and they care about their beliefs, but they're not perfect. And it's a nice. Octopath does it very well in that way. The turn-based battles are incredible still. They've just improved upon them. I think it's probably one of the most tactical JRPG combat systems. There's a lot of setup. You can see how turns are coming through, especially as you get later in the game, and which leads into like there's just a huge amount of character customization and meaty content there. So you can start kind of building your teams and the synergies and being like, really execute some great strategies during fights. It looks amazing, HD 2D for life. Square would just give us more of that type of stuff. I would be thrilled. I guess they did. I guess that's one I would love to play, Star Ocean 2.
Yeah, that remake just came out.
It did. Which is one that I want to try. But it also continues the kind of HD 2D stylings. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's number 5 for me. It kind of just snuck in there at the end where I was like, I really look back on this game very fondly, and I had a great time with it. And it's probably one of the better JRPGs of the year.
There's so much praise for that game at the end of the year. That's why I was glad it was on your list, because I think it's probably my biggest regret of the year is not touching that one yet. It sounds amazing for everything you just said, so that's great.
Yeah.
I hope to play it next year. My number 5, and I thought a lot about this, whether or not it would be on the bubble or it'd be in there, and obviously I'm choosing to put it in there. Number 5 is by Don't Nod. It is Jusant. Nice. I had an incredible time with this game. If you don't know the game, you're basically climbing a tower, and it really mechanizes the journey of climbing, where your left trigger, right trigger is left hand, right hand, and you're looking for handholds, and you are kind of putting pins in. I forgot what the pinions or pylons or whatever the fuck they're called in climbing jargon. My co-president is going to be pissed because he's a climber, but there's something. And so kind of part of the puzzle is like, how do I get up? And you start off with just climbing to the hooks or whatever that are in the face of the rock, and then eventually you get some powers that like allow you to activate a plant that opens up certain buds that you can use as handholds, and then that later interfaces with shadow and heat from the sun, where if it's in the shadow the buds stay, if it's in the heat they only last for a couple seconds. So you're really engaged with the climbing, not just with the right left trigger, but also like puzzling out, okay, this handhold will last for 5 seconds, those handholds above there will last forever, I need to get up there, I need to put my pylon or whatever the fuck it's called in the wall and then hang, so I'm kind of halfway up and kind of at a rest point, And then there are a few more mechanics like that where it alters the way that you climb, but it kind of adds new ways to climb that always keep the climbing fresh. It was like a 6-hour experience, so it kind of always felt just like the good side of annoying. Because I feel like in a 30-hour experience, we're just like right, left, right, left, right, left. It could get annoying, but they really make it a puzzle. So part of it is just that puzzle. So there's three main pillars of it. Really, is the climbing puzzle, 2, the lore story building, where you're finding a ton of items, either a shell, where you pick up a shell and you're just listening. And when you listen, it kind of evokes memories of the past, and you kind of see like ghosts of memories of the past, and thinking of a time in the past of this world. Or you're finding notes that have actual letters from people, or just slice of life things from the world, talking about the world. And Jusant is French for a receding tide. So it's a specific word for a receding tide. And this world is a tower where there clearly around this tower was an ocean. And now there's no ocean. It's just desert. There are shipwrecks. There are all the way up the tower evidence of ocean faring people, fishing boats, fishing shops, all that kind of stuff. So you're climbing and climbing and climbing, and you're kind of each, I think there's 5 chapters or so, and each one kind of changes the environment just a little bit. One is like a stormy, windy. You're trying to time your jumps with the wind, which adds another puzzle mechanic to it. But eventually, spoilers for the game. If you haven't played the game, fast forward. And sorry to Anthony, I'm not to spoil the end of the game here. You get up to the top, and what you find are these, I believe they were like whales floating through the sky that used to rain on the world and aren't now. And they're just floating through the sky. It was like this sea life floating through the sky. And you kind of reseed almost these mythical creatures where they then start raining again. So you're bringing water to the world again. And just touches of the game were like Journey, not with the multiplayer aspect, but just the visuals and just the solitude and just like the chill vibes. Like it was there's no combat. It is a just climbing game and the puzzle of it. And I probably finished it. I played it on Game Pass. I probably finished it a month ago, and played it with my daughter at first, and then by myself to finish it. And just it has stuck with me. It has lingered the entire year.
Nice.
And I was really debating whether or not this is going to hit the list, and obviously I've decided that it will. So if you have not played Jusant, at least watch it. But I recommend. Like it's a swerve for Don't Nod, because I'm used to them for Life is Strange. Those kind of narrative action-y sort of games. Not action-y, but there's more to do than in Jusant. But I've touched a few Don't Nod games, Vampire, Life is Strange 1. Didn't stick with any of them, but this one, it's special. So I really enjoyed it, and that's my number 5.
All right, sounds amazing. Sounds really cool. It's
really
been on
cool.
my radar. Of some point, I need to check that one out. Like you said, it's not an incredibly long game, so
no. I was so thankful to have a short fucking game this year, man.
Yeah. My next one, not so short, but had to be somewhere. Final Fantasy 16. It still holds a spot for me. And I think it holds its spot where I like Octopath Traveler 2 and the characters in it. I love the characters in 16. Clive, Dion, Jill, Sid, especially. Stand out. Sid is amazing. It's like one of the best characters. It's the best Sid in any Final Fantasy. I will hands down.
Except for Baldur's Gate 3, he's the best character of the year, in my view.
He's so good. But even that Dion is incredible. I love that character by the end. I really felt very attached to all the characters by the end of this game. It is an absolute spectacle, roller coaster ride all the way through. And when we talk about like just moments in game, this one just had a bunch of moments that I just loved. I'm it definitely shows its roots from the FF14 team, and how it's kind of structured. And I do feel like it is a bit more linear than most
Mhm.
Final Fantasies, but honestly, not most. Um, it kind of follows the path of the modern ones. We always talk about 15 being open world, and I'm like, it's only kind of open world.
Only kind of.
For a bit, and then they're like, nah, this doesn't work. We want to tell a story. And I
Yep.
think 16 I just enjoyed because they leaned into that, and they're just like, we're here to tell you a story.
Yeah.
Let's go. The combat I had a blast with, and I think it has a very high skill ceiling, but it's very approachable, and you're not required to be at that high of a skill ceiling to beat the game.
Yeah.
And they give you tools like you've used to tune
Oh,
how
yeah.
difficult you want the experience to be. But even if you don't use any of those, um, I feel like it's a very manageable game to learn and get to the skill level to be able to beat the game. That isn't to beat every challenge in the game, but the combat designer, I'm like, yeah, you made a combat system that is very, very approachable. The ability to swap out all your different skills, especially later in the game when you have all your different icon abilities going on, and you can really customize your build quite heavily. While you only get to play mainly one character, it does feel like you're using all these abilities. You are building out a lot of options for how you want to play the game. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. Need to play the DLC for this sometime this next year. It's my plan. I will likely go back and take care of that. But yeah, it has stuck with me. Like certain moments, I would say the end. I don't hate the ending. The ending is ambiguous, and it's very meant to be. I can tell that. I kind of like where it's going. I hope that they may do more with it in the end to explain a little bit more. But there are some very just moments throughout the game that are going to stick with me for a long time. Again, probably because of how good the characters are and how much I care about those characters. It really made those moments hit really hard. Again, looking at Sid, my God.
That Sid arc.
Yeah.
For me, there's a couple of things. Jill, I wish they, at least from where I'm at so far, I'm probably halfway through. There was a part with her that was really great, but Sid, that arc with Sid, and then the demo arc, those two pieces were just like, this is a fucking amazing story that they're telling.
Yeah.
But then as I went through, at least to halfway, now I'm like, it's not hitting as hard as those two pieces were. And I feel like the Dion thing is going to, like, I'm getting to that part. It's going to hit again.
Yeah.
I feel like there was like dips, ebbs and flows of the story. But man, I can't wait to finish this game. I think that I owe it to finish it.
Yeah. It really, and being a PS5 only game, it really shows off that hardware really well. They really went for it. And I guess people get to play it on PC this year. So yeah. So
is it? Did they say this year?
I think they said it. I didn't give a specific, but they said that it would probably. Yoshi P, given an interview, said it would take about a year to get it out on PC. Not from like a contractual standpoint, even. It's just like it will take that long to port it, and there will be definitely some requirements on your SSD to play it well, because it really uses the PS5's like the high bandwidth. So you need to have a high bandwidth SSD this game's going to be on, or it might be kind of hitchy or weird loading pauses between cutscenes and game.
Yeah.
But we're getting there on the PC side of things. So yeah, that is my number 4.
Awesome. Well, my number 4 breaks my fucking heart. And at the same time, and it speaks to 2023, it also makes me elated because that means the top 3 are fucking bangers. For a while, I thought my number 4 would be my number 1. My number 4 is from a series that is my favorite series of all time, and it is my favorite genre of all time. And this is one of my favorite games from this series of all time, and it is still number 4 on my fucking list. And I can't believe it. Super Mario Wonder is my number 4.
Oh,
and
all right.
It's wild to me that I just said that sentence. Super Mario Wonder, is phenomenal. It is different than other Mario platformers in that I guess it's not. It's different than different 2D platformers in that it is a 3D Mario game in a 2D form. Like think Galaxy 2, yeah, even Odyssey to a degree, but more N60 or more Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy, where it's like you jump into the painting in Mario 64, or you go to a planet in Mario Galaxy, and it's like this contained puzzle box. Like this is a thing. And the thing you do here maybe doesn't happen elsewhere. And it's a very interesting thing that you are focused on. And then you move on to the next painting or the next galaxy or the next planet or whatever. It's something different. I think in Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy, they stuck with the thing longer where, you jump into the painting multiple times and do different things in that world. Or you go to the same planet several times to do the same thing. Here, they've taken that idea where it's something different every time. But instead of every time being a collection of 6 events or whatever, 6 times you go back to the planet or the painting, here it's different one time. You come into the level and it's a thing that happens. It never happens again. The Wonder Seed, I think, is the easiest thing to point to, where you hit the Wonder Seed halfway through the level and it just changes the fucking level where... And I don't know if you've seen what happens
I've
in
seen
the second
some of
level.
it. I've seen some different. I don't know specifically what levels are, but I mean, I've seen videos.
Do you care if I spoil this?
No, not at all.
Okay. So it's the second fucking level, and it's still the one that stands out to me the most, where you're halfway through the level, and my daughter loves this one as well. We keep going back just to do this thing. You hit the Wonder Seed, and then the Piranha Plants just start singing. It's a fucking musical. They are singing the whole rest until you get the Wonder Seed at the end. And it changes from like a platforming thing to a fucking musical, which I feel like having a musical happen in the middle of your game is something that's happening this year.
Yeah.
But both the Wonder Seeds that just change it to like, you're doing something fucking different here. We have done a lot of drugs and we are going to infuse whatever trip we are on into this game. Stands out in Super Mario Wonder, where like there's a level where you're just trying to avoid these rhinoceros type creatures because they can fucking one shot you and you're dead, or break through walls or whatever for you. Then you hit the Wonder Seed, and instead of just 1 or 2 of these creatures, there's a fucking train. It's a fucking train, and you're riding this train of creatures all the way through the level. Another level, you're racing Wiggler on fucking roller skates. There's so much. It is. We are playing. This is a tangent, really quickly. We're playing Bridge Constructor Portal right now, which my daughter has just discovered, and she fucking loves it. Okay. And my wife is playing with us now too, and she's experiencing the same thing that she experienced when she played Humanity earlier this year, where you play a level, you get the thing they're teaching you how to do, and the next level they add a thing. The next level they add a thing. And her frustration is, whatever you just taught me, let me do it for 5 levels. Let me have fun with that one thing for 5 levels before you like amp up the difficulty. And that's the same thing with Mario Wonder. Not so much like adding new mechanics, but whatever they did in this level, it is gone. You don't see it again. It is something completely different. Every single level is like 80% different than the last one. And it is in some ways sad because you want to have that experience more. You want to see that the thing the Wonder Seed did more. You want to have this really tough as nails platforming challenge where these blocks throughout the level that I still can't beat this fucking level. It's a nightmare to me. Blinking on and off, disappearing. You're trying to like use your badges to get up through the level, jump off the blocks to get to the flagpole at the end. And it only happens once. And another layer, speaking of the badges, reminds you a little bit of Hollow Knight, where you get a badge and it gives you a different ability. You can jump further. Your hat can be a parachute. You have a vine that gives you like a fucking hook shot, basically, that you can attach to a wall and fly over. And they give you different abilities that kind of help you eke out, like you have like think of a tough as nails platforming challenge where you're like, oh, if I could just jump a little further, a little higher, you can choose a badge that does that thing and gets you through that piece. So you're kind of strategically thinking about what badges you put on. So there's that aspect to it. Then there's just the aspect of like, I'm playing with my daughter, just having a fucking great time with a Mario game. And all of that, everything I've just said so far is like a 10 out of 10. And then you do the fucking online multiplayer, which is like a 12 out of 10. The way that they incorporated, I don't know if consciously or not, like Dark Souls-ish fucking multiplayer where you have ghosts of characters who are literally playing as you are playing. And you're interacting with them, giving them items. They give you items. You're putting up standees, which is like a wooden, I guess, just a fucking sign that represents your body. And if they touch it when they're a ghost, they come back to life. And you're helping each other. You're helping these fucking people out throughout the level, get to the end of some of these really hard challenges. And also just some, the difficulty is not too hard in the regular game. The bonus levels are where the difficulty's at. And that's where the ghosts really help. But my daughter, I started my file. I was like, I'm going to play my file. And then she started her file on her account. But I don't have the family plan, so she doesn't have online. So she played with me a little bit, and she's like, this online is awesome. Can we do it on my account? No. Okay, well, I want to play on your account. So she just loves it. I love it. And it just adds like a new dimension. It does two things. One, it adds a new dimension to playing Mario where it makes co-op or multiplayer Mario not frustrating as fuck. Because the last few 2D platformers, co-op is just frustrating. So they've done that. Two, they solved their technical problem where they've had frame issues with having them in the world at the same time, where you're interacting and hitting them and bopping them on their heads. You can't interact in that way. So they fixed that issue. I could go on. The art style, the fucking music. The only thing that sucks in this game, and it sucks hard, is the bosses. They suck, except for Bowser at the end is pretty fun. The rest of it sucks. They're the same bosses, that just a tad bit of a different challenge. There's not any evolution in creativity with the bosses that you see in the rest of the game. It's really weird. Like some other team made the bosses, but I could go on and on and on about this game. And it's wild to me that how passionate I feel about this game right now. It's number 4 on my list.
That's crazy.
That's number 4, Super Mario Wonder.
Okay. All right.
Please play this game one day, Anthony.
I will. I can say on your whole thing with your wife's being the like, let me sit with a mechanic. Tend to like, it's very interesting. I've seen this trend more and more is that games are going to, in some ways, would say shorter attention spans. Mechanic, next mechanic. Because it used to be the rule typically was if you introduce a mechanic, you want to let them do it whatever increment your game is 3 times. 3 levels, 3 stages, small things, whatever it is, and then introduce something new. Like it will get boring after 3rd. Like 3 times, next. Always have a new mechanic. But I definitely feel like there's probably something that could be studied in now on like game design to being like, hey, this is moving faster now. People want general audiences and younger audiences want mechanics showing up quicker, and moving on. But that's for a different time.
That's the nail on the head, though. I think it's the attention span and wanting something new and sticking with something new. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Engagement over time, I guess.
Yeah. So my number 3, which is crazy to me that this is going to be number 3. Like you with Wonder being 4, this being when this game had come out in the year, I'm like, how can anything be better than this game? This is amazing. It's Tears of the Kingdom.
My heart.
I really do enjoy it. I would say I didn't beat it. I put a lot of time into it, just building crap and trying different things and doing things, exploring. Takes everything that Breath of the Wild did, does more than Breath of the Wild ever did. It clearly, you're like, yep, this makes sense that it kind of started as an expansion of Breath of the Wild, and then just spun into insanity. Because it is insane, the amount of content in this game and the amount of exploration. I would say it's the most free form and open gameplay of almost any sandbox game ever. I can't believe they put an entire system of just building things into it. Vehicles. And I don't know, whatever the hell you want to build.
Fucking mechs. Yeah.
Yeah. Go to town. Just go crazy. And they just let people do it. And truly have their own sandbox. I'd say this is almost close to, and honestly, not close to. It is an immersive sim for the most part now, where it's like we've given you tools, we've given you problems to solve, figure it out. Like, we know that clearly the designs have been done of showing like, here is our thought on how you could solve it, but you're free to do whatever you want. You just want to build a big giant bridge, build a big giant bridge,
and carry it throughout the whole level. Go for it.
Yep,
the whole fucking world.
It.
I mean,
sure, whatever. If you just want to solve by building bridges, build your bridge. So from like a mechanical standpoint, truly impressive. I have a hard time seeing where Zelda goes next after this game. This franchise, there's a part of me that feels like they probably shouldn't try to make it open world. I think they should probably go back to a more traditional Zelda after that and give this time to breathe, because I don't know if you go bigger, get bigger or better open world than this right now. It has a better story execution than I think Breath of the Wild had. Much more interesting story. They executed on that very well. The side quests are much more interesting and meaningful. Breath of the Wild's like side quest, that only one I truly remember is Tarrytown. This one just had all sorts of pretty deep, long side quests. I did a lot of those. That's where I spent a lot of my time with this game. They reintroduced kind of a dungeon aspect to it, which is what people were kind of wanting. It's a little bit deeper puzzle-ish mechanics. They're not nearly as long as like your Skyward Swords or earlier Zelda game dungeons, but they also feel meatier than the Divine Beasts ever did, and more thematically cohesive. So in all sorts of ways, I think this is probably my favorite Zelda game at this point. Thinking about it, nostalgia clearly throws me a Link to the Past, but I think Tears of the Kingdom is just a better designed game overall. Like, I can step back and be like, yeah, this is just a better game. And design has come so far, and technology has come so far that they can make a game like this.
That doesn't break on the incredible Switch. On the fucking... It doesn't break on the Switch, and the Switch is a fucking machine with a hamster wheel in the middle of it.
Yeah, pretty much. And they made this work, and work generally fairly well. There's only a few ways to make it its frame rate to really suck. But generally runs great. Yeah, I didn't know how they'd follow up Breath of the Wild, and they made it a pretty incredible game. And the fact that it's number 3 for me is crazy. But there are 2 games above it that I absolutely adore.
No, I'm with you on that. You know, same thing with Mario Wonder, where it's like, I just can't believe this is not my game of the year. Just speaking really quickly about where they go next, I know Aonuma has said we're done with this type. We're moving on to something else. So I think that's the right move. Yeah. Yeah. They need to, the same way that they had hit kind of the end with Skyward Sword of that traditional thing, that it's time. And I think they could run this type of Zelda into the ground if they kept doing it. And I think it's right to be like, yep, we're done. We made the best version of this we can right now, and time to figure out what is next for this franchise. What else can we do with it? How can we reinvent it again? Right. And I guess we'll see that on the Switch too. So yeah, next year we'll see what comes up. I think we're going to start with a port or a remake of Ocarina of Time, but we'll see what happens. Probably. A nice throwback to the original kind of design. All right, man. On to my number 3, where I've got to make some choices. And I'm making them in the moment. Although I think I've been probably leaning toward this decision, and it's once again bonkers to me. And will probably break your heart. My number 3 is Baldur's Gate 3. Okay. My number 3 of the year is Baldur's Gate 3, and I can't fucking believe that. Once this came, I picked up right before early access ended. Obviously, we've been hearing about it for a while. I remember sitting in a coffee shop obviously it was pre-pandemic, because I was in a coffee shop with no mask on, watching the reveal of this on Stadia. A Stadia, I don't know, fucking showcase or whatever. Right. Yeah, man. And I was like, wow, this looks like I've always wanted to get into D&D. I've dabbled. This looks like a way that I could get into D&D, and it was hard. This was the game that really, for the most part, between this and Final Fantasy 16, like was my gaming semester, where I would play this basically 5 nights a week, because 2 nights a week, or maybe 4 nights a week, because 3 nights a week I was either planning or grading for class, and I really set a schedule where I did not do anything fun on those nights where I was working, and that really helped my semester be awesome. But I just looked forward every day when like I was going through whatever was happening at work or whatever happening in my day to bring me down, or whatever stuff. I was like, but I'm going to play Baldur's Gate 3 tonight. And I'm going to fucking sit on that couch. And I hooked up my laptop to the fucking TV and just played the shit out of Act 1. Like, I went everywhere. I did so much in Act 1. Apparently, I didn't go everywhere enough to find Lae'zel. She was fucking dead. I'm sorry, Lae'zel. I'll see you on the next playthrough. But the stories, like, in Act 1, the way that you interacted with your characters, the way that you found new shit everywhere, and just found the craziest ways to get through things, tried things, they just worked. For the most part, I did not save scum. I just went with what my rolls went, which was evidenced in Act 2 when I was at the Inn, Last Light Inn.
Yeah.
And I let everybody die. Like, I fucked this up badly. Everyone's dead. Apparently, according to you, I've locked off a million fucking quests, and I'm just going forward because I got my boy Gale, who's going to blow himself to smithereens. That's my goal. And I'm currently in the Temple of Shar. I've done a lot of the trials, and I've got obviously more to do there. And the reason why it doesn't move up the scale for me is honestly probably because I haven't finished it. I put 72 hours into it, and I've sort of hit the Elden Ring issue that I had, where I played 80 hours of Elden Ring. I was like, I've done enough. I get this game. I love this game. I don't need to see more. For Baldur's Gate 3, that's not true. I'm going to continue. But I feel like, and this is probably just because of either the way I'm playing or the way I've fucked up the story somehow, my party, their growth interactions, the story that I got from individual characters kind of kept coming at a pretty good pace through Act 1. And Act 2, I feel like it slowed down tremendously, where every time I talk to Shadowheart, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel like I must be doing something wrong, because the pace at which the characters grew, the party grew together in Act 1 just felt like a very vibrant, rich story, and it's really slowed down in Act 2. And I don't know what I've done or if that's the way the pacing goes. But I don't feel compelled right now by the character stories like I was in Act 1. And that's the one thing that's kind of like lingered with me. Like, I must have done something wrong, or the fucking Last Light Inn thing really fucked shit up.
Definitely screwed your Karlach story up.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Big time. Like, I'm pretty sure your Karlach story a good chunk of it is done.
Yeah.
There's no coming back to that.
Well, and that's the question I have, or the thought I have, is like, maybe I'm running with the wrong party, although I think all party members have really interesting things. But like, for me, it's mainly Will, Gale, and Shadowheart. And right now I have Halsin instead of Will.
I've never ran with Halsin, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little flat, And to be honestly, the thing that started the decline in my interest was that, and I'm sure I'm fucking it up, but that quest where you're going for, I can't remember the boy's name, where he disappears with Halsin. Oh, what's that kid's name?
I know
Yeah, but you were like, go back with someone who could see invisibility. He's there. He's not. And the game is telling me it's in this circle where this person is, and I'm there with Karlach, who can see invisibility, and there's nothing there. And I'm like,
weird.
I was progressing this story.
Something.
Yeah. Oh, Thaniel. Thaniel.
That's Thaniel. Like, yeah.
Thank you, mushroom pills. I got that. But and I just like, fuck, I'm missing something here, not because of me, but because of the game. But maybe it's because of me, and I don't know. So that kind of sucked. And that's right around the time when I switched over to Final Fantasy 16. So I want to come back to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I want to finish my boy Gale's story and then start again with Astarion. Like, I don't really run with Astarion. And I've, based on Neil Newbon winning every fucking award on the planet, it's got to be
I
a great
always
story.
run with Astarion.
Yeah,
well, one,
right.
Because I usually need a rogue. I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, my second playthrough I didn't really play with Astarion because I was playing Ranger Rogue.
You were the rogue.
So I was the rogue. But I'm like, oh, it's a D&D party. I have to have a rogue. I have to have a cleric and I have to have a rogue. It's just important. And you could respec someone else to be that job if you want it. But Astarion has grown on me quite a bit. I was unsure of that character at the beginning, but absolutely love that character as it's gone on. And you're not playing with Astarion, right?
I'm not.
Yeah, because there's definitely, I think Act 2 is very much Shadowheart, Astarion, Halcyon, if the quest line was working for you, was definitely a piece of it. I'm trying to think. They all have some stuff, but it definitely felt like it's mainly Astarion and Shadowheart's chapter.
Yeah, and I'm missing him. I have her for sure, and obviously the Gauntlet.
And you're going through the
Temple
of Shar. Like, you're working through that.
Yeah, and there's finally this is the time where finally the story is moving along with her. So yeah, I'm enjoying it again because of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that just because of the Steam Deck and my excitement about trying out different games. Sure. I'm playing games differently right now because of the Steam Deck, and Baldur's Gate 3 has been a piece of that, but not a lot of it. So anyway, Baldur's Gate 3 is my number 3, and it gets 3 points. There's a certain symmetry there.
It's true. Like a symmetry to my next game, which you probably guessed. I have never played this game. I have watched so much of it, though.
I figured this was going to be it. Yep.
Alan Wake 2. I cannot play this game. I will literally just kind of seize up from jump scares.
Yeah.
Because holy crap, is it intense? Even watching through the entire stream, like a streamer I know playing it through the entire game, there were times that I was jumping, watching a streamer play it. Also because they were jumping too, and pulling their headphones off their head and being like, "Ah, God."
Yep.
They don't like horror games either, but they've forced themselves through this game. But for me, I don't think anyone's doing what Remedy is doing, making stories. I mean, this made me go back and play Control. I didn't beat it, but I played quite a bit more of Control than I ever had, and I'm just like, there is a vision and execution that comes from a Remedy game, and that it all bleeds down from the top, and you can tell this is a passion of Sam Lake, the way he's telling stories, the kind of stories he wants to tell, and that bleeds through the entire team, and they're all unified in this specific vision and executing on it. And Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake was fine, and then just watching this and being like, this is one of the most incredible presented stories I've seen in a game. The audacity of it sometimes, of just being like, yeah, we're doing this, like the musical aspect that I think everyone has seen at this point, because it's pretty much become a part of the zeitgeist, is just incredible that they're like, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to make it, we're going to execute it on a AAA level, and people won't believe it. And I think the characters are incredible. The story was well told. There's a ton of really great characters throughout the entire thing. I absolutely love I love the band Old Gods of Asgard, that band, but I love the characters in the game too, and the way the humor is thrown into the stories, the right level of tongue-in-cheekness to the whole thing. The way that the Saga and Alan stories kind of weave together, and where it ends up in the end, I don't know. Watching this whole thing, I was just consistently impressed with what Remedy pulled off here, and I feel like a lot like my number one game is them executing at the highest level of their skill. They don't just magically get to Alan Wake 2. they got this far building off of all the games that came before. And this is just them honing the specific craft of game that they want to make and story that they want to tell. And it works. So yeah, number 2. I don't think there's anything I have truly negative against this game. Like, it was pretty
Other
amazing.
than you couldn't play it.
I couldn't play it, but that's not the game's fault. It's just
No. Yeah.
I'm a scaredy cat and don't like horror games.
Yep.
It's not that I don't like horror games. I enjoy horror games. I enjoy watching horror games and reading about them. I cannot play them though.
Yep. I feel the same way, and it's weird because I love Stephen King, and I love, he writes a ton of horror books, and some of his books have scared the absolute fucking shit out of me. But I can't watch horror. I don't watch horror movies. I don't, every once in a while I'll get like a reason to like, I want to be scared. I'll watch a horror movie, and it's like very few and far between, but the endorphins of that scare, that rush is sure something. And I'm sure that's what propels the genre a little bit, I'm sure. Okay, number 2 is Alan Wake 2 for you. Much like number 4, number 2 breaks my heart, and also is a herald of how fucking great this year was. Number 2 for me is gotta be one of the best games ever made, and it does more than what I consider, until this year, one of the best games ever made. It's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is everything you said, plus the idea of what Breath of the Wild did that then Elden Ring did, that then Tears of the Kingdom is like, oh yeah, we can do that better. The fucking exploration, the walking into shit and just being like, wow, there's something wild here. There's a fucking mayoral race where I've got to go. What the fuck were they giving? Was he giving to people raisins or fucking? I forget what he was giving to people. And then by the end of that whole mayoral race, where you get this fucking pink fob, and it's like your fucking helmet, and you get to just play as fucking Link and drag for the rest of the game.
Yep.
And just like that's my everything for that game. It's beautiful. The story is really fucking good, and it's like, I want to say really good for a Zelda game, because Zelda game stories aren't always great. But the story's really fucking good. I love the way they told the story through the Dragon Tears, where you're kind of getting it in different, you're not getting it sequentially. You're kind of trying to piece it together, and like just the joy of discovery of finding a Dragon's Tear, watching the story. And then the next morning, first thing I had to do was show my daughter that fucking story. And despite not having playable Zelda, and if there was playable Zelda, this would be in my number 1 of the year. Having Zelda doing so much more in this game, and really having her, putting together the Master Sword in the past, and the whole time she's like, she's deep in the past with this fucking. By the way, weird shit happening with like this animal race and this human race, and they're fucking, and things are happening. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. There's some bestiality happening here, but you know what? Whatever fucking crazy shit is happening here. How is Zelda gonna get that Master Sword back? She's gonna come back through time and fucking be slashing and wielding that sword. But she came back through time, and I did not expect it. She became a fucking dragon and just floated through the world for fucking centuries. Some of the dragons you see in Breath of the Wild, ostensibly one of those dragons. And then to get the Master Sword, you have to fucking get up there on the dragon and pull it out of her head. And it is like the number 2 moment of the year for me. And that was only because number 1 was playing Pizza Possum with my daughter and beating the fucking game together. But number 2, in terms of like pure story, pulling that sword out and being like, that's where it is. That's where I got to go. I got it. I'm pulling it out. Like, I wrote a fucking song about it. That I fucking love. And like this story, the mechanics, the building, the exploration, the survival mechanics where you've got to, just figure out, and just the water cooler moments, like you, me, and Travis just sharing like what the fuck we did in these different areas. Yeah, I carried this fucking 12 log long bridge halfway across the fucking world. Just everything about this game is fucking phenomenal. And I have not beat it. I've got to Ganon. I stopped because Breath of the Wild, I beat it and never went back to it. And I don't want that to happen with Tears of the Kingdom. I go back to it incrementally. I watched the ending on YouTube, the Ganon battle, and then the aftermath. I'm deeply saddened that there's no DLC for this game. There's no more coming, and they're gonna pivot to something else. This is in any other year not only my favorite game of the year, but the best game of the year by a mile. And this year is wild.
Yeah, this year is wild.
So that's my number 2, Tears of the Kingdom.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know what your number 1 is, because I would have expected to hear it by now if it wasn't. But same with me.
I may surprise you. Man.
You may. Out of left field, here comes a challenger.
Cassette Beast, my number 1.
Street Fighter 6. That's the one I love.
Dude, damn, fuck, man.
I know.
That's a good
that's
pull.
another one.
I should have had that in my honorable mentions. God damn, that was a great game.
Yeah, let's go with my number 1. We talked about Baldur's Gate 3. I revisited it. That's the game I revisited today for a couple hours. Started a new run. Updated my mods and was like, I'm going to start again. I'm going to play my Twilight Cleric. Start again. I wasn't too far in to the Twilight Cleric playthrough. Within 2 hours in Act 1, I found an encounter I never found before on my other playthroughs.
Oh,
how is this possible?
Yeah.
It's in the ruin. It was in the overgrown ruins with the bandits and everything.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's a door I never went through.
What was
I always
the
would
door?
go through the hatch on the backside, which would take me down to like where you would eventually find Withers and inside there. And then I would then come out the front door, work my way back through. But there was a side door that I guess was locked or I couldn't get through. But oh yeah, you can just enter it, lockpick it from the bandits outside. And there's a whole nother bandit encounter inside. I never did that encounter in my life. And there's this whole new encounter, a new way into this place.
Is that where the fire barrels are? Are there fire barrels there?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I never did that.
Interesting.
On 2 playthroughs, I never found that. I don't know why, but I found it this time in a couple hours of playing and just trying again. Which leads me to being like, for me, it is one of the greatest games ever made. Because everyone who plays this game has their own story. Like, there is a story to the game, but everyone who plays it, and everyone I've ever talked to now who's played this game this year, has different stories to tell about playing it. And what they did, what their characters did, what their party did, and the game respects it. And they can tell the story of like, yeah, I did this thing and I found this thing, and like a person can talk about this game and what they did in it as if it's canon. That is what the game is like. Yeah, of course that's what I did. That's what the game was wanting me to do.
Right.
And then you hear all this other stuff other people did, and you're like, never mind, you can do whatever you want. And it's cool. So that's like the key part where I'm like, from like a craft standpoint, why I'm like, it's to me one of the best games ever. I'm just like, this is an incredible achievement for what interactive storytelling has been trying to be in a lot of ways. And then from a genre of the CRPG being like, Larian pushed it further than I think anyone's ever pushed it before. And they kind of had pushed it pretty far with their previous games, but they went above and beyond with Baldur's Gate 3 from the standpoint of that interactivity and tailoring the story, getting tailored to how you're playing and your choices. And then can we just say the incredible amount of like just polished content in the game? Like, it's not like you typically do something and you're like, oh, that wasn't the right thing, this is kind of just half-baked. Here, it's like, no, it's AAA polished all the way through. Doesn't matter what it is. There's voice acting. Everything's voice acted. There's voice acted narration all the time. It's not just half-baked here and there. It's just consistent all the way through. They're like, if we're gonna put this in, we're gonna put this is a bar, and we're gonna put it in it that way. it is what I've always wanted out of a D&D video game. It's the closest I've felt to ever playing like I'm actually playing D&D. I could just gush about this game. I have gushed about it on our show for forever. And then, yeah, just going back and playing for a couple hours at the beginning again, I was like, yeah, this game is just amazing. It was sitting around. I'm like, is this going to be my number one? Is it going to float around? Is it 2, 3? I'm just like, played it, and I was like, no, this is number one. Like, I feel like this is a game I could be playing for a long time, finding new things consistently, getting new experiences, because I just want to play a different type of character. I want to play. I haven't played a tiefling yet. I want to play a tiefling. What's that like? I want to play an orc, a half orc. What's that like? How does that change my interactions with people through the game?
Right. And it does. It would.
It does. Everything does. And I've had people, and this is where it's weird to me. I've had people be going, they're like, yeah, I was playing like the half Ranger. I got all these options. This was great. And I'm like, I feel bad for anyone playing something else. Like, I mean, it feels like because I'm like, this is what you should be playing. You're going to have the options. I'm like, I have to tell them, like, no, you choose something else. You just get different options in those points. Not worse, different. And so you're only seeing a small percentage of the actual content in the game based on your like initial character choice. My second character was Drow, and playing a Drow was incredible. We got so much interesting choices because of doing that. But I don't know. It has been shockingly how good this game has been. I put, what does my Steam say on now? I'm at 170 hours in this game.
Jeez. You eclipsed Diablo 4 game time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'll get another couple dozen hours, if not more, out of it. I have a friend here who's played it through 6 times, and is going to probably do more. They talk about how they move on to other games, and they're just like, nah, I just want to play a different playthrough of Baldur's Gate. And they were not the person in D&D at first. They were like, it's funny talking with them and watching their like how they play the game change, of being like, yeah, it's fine, the tactics fine. I don't know how much I like D&D, to the now where they're like super deep into like the nitty gritty D&D mechanics of the characters and the classes and like the synergies between classes and the abilities and spells. And you're just like, I'm like, holy crap. This got them, and it got them deep. So I don't know. I could talk forever about it. Music is incredible.
Oh yeah, man.
Like it is. Between it and Alan Wake 2 are some of the best music this entire year. In games and then kind of outside of games too. Especially Alan Wake 2. Its music is just like really good. This has much more a classical kind of feel, but it has some pretty standout musical moments and scores. Yeah,
well, just the menu where you like load up into the game.
Yeah, you just sit on it for a while. It's so good.
Totally.
You get the Disney kind of like villain musical. I don't know if you've seen that yet, or if that's been spoiled for you. But there's a
villain I have no idea what that is.
Their own theme.
Are you fucking kidding? That's amazing. I did not know that.
You do a boss fight with them, and their theme starts, and then lyrics start to it, like a whole, and it sounds like a Disney villain musical, kind of like that big giant like theatrical musical number. But you can like zoom in, and the character's actually like singing the part, like while you're fighting.
Fucking awesome! Oh my god,
so insane.
Oh my god, that's really,
so
really
good though.
Is that an Act 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a culmination point of Act 3.
Almost reminds me, and this is not related at all, but Ember's New Groove. Is he singing his own theme song right now?
Yes, actually, totally. It really is. You can zoom in and it's like, yes, he is singing his own theme song.
That's way too cool.
It is very cool, and it's a level. That just showed like the level of care that went into crafting this game, and every little bit. And then I can't even speak to like, since the game's been out, all the patches and updates that Larian's been doing to it. I don't think they're done with this game at all. I think there's more to come. I don't know if it's an expansion in a traditional way of more content, or if it like continued after the fact, or if it's more of they're going to add more classes and races into the game just to have more options of playing through the game.
That's what it sounds like they're going to do for what's next. Like, instead of going from level 13, 14, whatever, it's just like, here, you can play as a fucking, I don't know, weird fucking character.
All the different races.
Yeah,
and there's a class that they don't have. There's the, I don't know if they'll do it or not. There's the, crap, why can't I forget it? There's, tons of subclasses that they don't have in the game that are in different expansion books. But then there is the Artificer class, which they don't have, which was specific to the setting called Eberron, but has been now published in a more setting specific book. It's just kind of in one of the rules expansion books now, default ones, and so people can play Artificers, and they don't have that in the game. People have modded it in, but I could see them just being like, hey, we're going to add like a bunch of subclasses and this new class into the game. Go to town, people. But yeah, to me, it is, I've been sitting on it for a while, and it is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I kind of can't believe it exists. And that Larian was able to pull it off in the end.
They're indie, right? But Jesus.
They are indie. They totally are an indie studio. They invested a lot of money in this game. They also kickstarted it, I believe, in the end. Did they kickstart this one?
No, they just did early access.
They were just early access. They just used that
because it was Wizards,
Hasbro or whatever. Yeah. But
I mean, the thing is, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. They weren't getting really money from Hasbro.
Yeah, I don't think there was. Yeah, exactly. But they were spending a lot of money. This is like the magnum opus, right? If that, like, this is our, last shot. This is what it's going to be. This is what we've been, Divinity Original Sin 2. This is what we've been arcing toward, and we're going to fucking blow our load on this fucking game.
They did.
And yeah, they did. And the buzz throughout early access was like, yeah, you and I were like, we're going to play this fucking game. But boy, I knew this is where you would go. I did not know it would hook me for 72 hours and more. More is coming in 2024. But the thing that's interesting about this game specifically that I've been hearing, not criticism, but people talking about in their Game of the Year list, talking about this one thing over and over again, where, they're thinking about how, studios are going to take different lessons from this game. But the thing that several people have mentioned, they hope people take away from this game, is that you can create content that 2% of your player base are going to see.
Yep.
Because there are 50 groups of 2% that are going to see that thing and talk to each other. And then the fact that there's other shit there, like there's shit you saw that I've never seen, that only enhances my experience, because I know this thing I've seen is amazing. There's an equally different path that is as amazing or more amazing. Like think Last Light In, for example, that I can see again later, or just that it's there and I'm never going to see it, just adds to the richness of this world. And that's a really cool thing. That
everyone has their unique story in this game. I do not. The number of iterations that are potential in this game, I don't think anyone has had the exact same game play that I've had in the game. I doubt there's anyone who's played this game has the exact, like, I've made the same conversation choices. We might end up roughly in the same spot, but there's enough variance there that, nope, your playthrough is your playthrough. And it's hard to think of other games that have that level of willingness to do that. Like, yeah, you only have 1% of people see this. Okay, that's fine. That's your story.
We're fine spending the budget on that. Like, it's worthy. And the writing across the entire game that I've seen so far is just like the best writing of any game I've seen, to be honest.
It's very good. Incredible. And to speak to like quality, like I'm amazed. There's 207,000 people are playing BG3 on Steam. Like today.
207,000 today?
Yep. Yep, was the
That's
number
a
4
fucking ton.
biggest
Jesus.
game on Steam. It's never dropped out of the top 10 on Steam since its release. And it's amazing to me that a CRPG is having that level of staying power, and it's just surrounded by all these other multiplayer games: TF2, PUBG, Dota 2, CS, Counter-Strike, like, and yet
It's
you have all
it's an
those
island.
you have all those like big multiplayer games, and then it's just like Baldur's Gate 3. And you're like, it's been out since August, and people are still just playing this thing.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that's my number 1. I guess surprise me?
Well, this may be a surprise because I've hidden my gameplay of this game for the entire year on PS5, so no one can see that I've been playing it. And it surprises me because I grew up reading these books and loving these books, and Hogwarts Legacy just took me over this year.
Wow.
It was from start to finish.
Oh, I forgot that was this year.
Yeah, it came out in February, and I picked it in February. The growth of the main character, whose name escapes me at this point, and the things that the main character does, which also escape me, were just this is absolutely not my game of the year. Nope. Maybe I'll get back to it on the Steam Deck, but no, absolutely not. I just want to say, show me the Champion of Light, I'll show you the Herald of Darkness.
Yep.
Alan Wake 2, I played the fucking game, started the game at least, played through Nightingale and a little bit of, probably played for an hour. Scared the fuck out of me. Like, I already watched the entire game, and then starting the sequence again, I'm like, I know there's going to be like the fucking interstitial, like 2 or 3 frames of some fucking crazy shit. And then just the weird voices and shit. Like, it is scary as fuck when you're watching it. When you're playing it, it is a different level. And it's like, I cannot not have this as my game of the year. Same as you, watching it, experiencing it more as watching it than playing it, although now finally starting to play it. I am a huge Stephen King fan. I've read nearly everything he's written, and the way that he intersperses his characters or stories from different novels across each other, like through the nexus of the Dark Tower series, where like that's the center of my multiverse, and people cross through the Dark Tower series to get to the Dark Tower, or the thin parts of the universe between each multiverse to get to other stories, is recreated in this game, where it's an homage. There's a review here from The Guardian from 2021 of Alan Wake Remastered that says it's an enjoyably hokey paperback horror homage, and that rings so true. Not the hokey part, but the fact that this is like an homage to, in some aspect, Stephen King like horror, where you've got just deeply disturbing, dark shit happening, and it's related to like multiverse-ish kind of stuff, where people are in different realms, or different the places where they can't reach out to another reality. They're in different realities and are communicating with each other, and that's obviously on display here with Alan Wake 2. The story carries this thing, and I know that people have criticized the moment-to-moment kind of combat gameplay, either that it's just not that engaging or it doesn't happen enough, but the story of this game is just fucking crazy. The story's fucking crazy, and the way that it just pulls together the Remedyverse, both in, and I think this adds to it, and I think they probably would have wanted it a different way, but it adds to it where it's not Max Payne, it's Alex Casey. It's not, I can't remember his name from Quantum Break, it's Mr. Door, and it's played by Sam Hare. What's his name? Harebrain? Not Harebrain. That's probably wrong. Fucking can't remember his name. But he's a fantastic actor. And it was meant for Lance Riddick. It was supposed to be the same character from Quantum Break, which is the only other Remedy game I played through to completion. And that game, that is like there's so many parts of the Remedyverse that is like the launching pad for this game. Obviously, Control, Alan Wake, but also Quantum Break, where it's gameplay and then it's FMV. It's a fucking half an hour long episode, and then back and forth, back and forth. The way that they have pulled in the janitor who was in Control, whose name is escaping me right now.
Oh,
Otto or Ati. Thank you. Yep. The way that they're bringing in Alex Casey, obviously he's always been there, but that's Max Payne, and then voiced by James McCaffrey, who passed away this year, which is just extremely sad.
That is insane. That was so sudden.
Yeah, bone marrow cancer is.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was that came across. It's just sad. Every aspect of the game where like they wanted to bring in aspects of the other games, but because of Rockstar owning the IP of Max Payne,
yep.
or Lance Reddick is dead.
Yeah,
Microsoft
yeah. Quantum Break IP.
Exactly right. So they had to change it where it wasn't Lance Reddick, but it was a character who reminded you of Lance Reddick and then just fucking kills it. And I'm gonna have to look for his name later.
It's David Harewood.
Harewood, thank you, not Harebrain. God damn.
Yeah.
Harewood. Just those scenes of the talk show are, there's so much of this game that encapsulate what Stephen King is to me, but those talk shows are it, where it's like on its face, it's like almost normal, but just below the surface, it's fucking not. It is it's scary, terrifying. It's creepy, it's terrifying. Alan Wake is like, I didn't write that. No, what are you talking? I didn't write that book.
Yeah.
And it just goes and goes and goes. And like all of that, you can switch between Saga, which I think is a great character, and I think her name is Melanie Libbard. I loved her in This Is Us. And seeing her here was like, whoa, shit, she's here. And that being in the Pacific Northwest is cool too, because I don't live there, but I love it. I know you live there.
Yep.
I love it. We were just there. We want to come back. And then all of that doesn't even touch like the Norse mythology aspect, which is cool, woven throughout, and it gets deeper and darker and weirder. And then it doesn't even touch We Sing. It doesn't even touch the musical, which you had said before I saw it. Like there's a I think it was you, or I heard on a podcast, like there's a musical thing somewhere. Like it's, when you get there, holy shit. And I can't wait to get there playing the game, because that's my number one moment of the year.
Yeah, I can see that.
Where you walk into that and you're just like, I'm in a musical. That we are progressing the story through a fucking musical, and it's good music. Yeah. It's a great story. I listened to that song so much this year, and then to see them do it on the Game Awards solidified it. That was the moment where I was like, this is my game of the year. This encapsulates everything that is wild and inventive about this game, is that you fucking went for it. Like we were talking just a little bit ago about how Larian's like, we're shooting our wad. This is it. Like, this is like, it almost feels like, and this is not true. This is a weird comparison here, but in San Diego, Peter Seidler spent in the last 2 years a fuck ton of money trying to buy a team for them to win. And it was like, they're bringing all these stars, buying all these stars, and Peter Seidler died this year. And I was like, oh, he was trying to get him to win before he died. I see. And I know Sam Lake is not dying, but this is almost like I am doing it. This is it. I'm doing everything I've ever wanted to do in this game. And it's wild to me that, and it's great, and it's serendipity, right? Where Alan Wake came out in 2010. 2023? It's taken 13 years for Alan Wake 2 to come out, and it's been false start after false start to get to this point, and it all needed to happen to get to this point where this game is unlike anything I've ever seen. And it almost feels like, you know how like indie, you know better than I do, where indie games take a swing. Like I've got a small budget, small team. We're going to take a swing at something fucking wild.
Yeah.
This one does it on a AAA level and swings and fucking, it's a grand slam. It is something that's going to stick with me forever. And that's from watching it. Like now that I'm going to get to play through it, and just man, it is something fucking special.
You're not wrong. I think it
So
could
thank you.
theoretically have been my number one if I could play it, but I can't.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was for the last month. I'm like, this is like number one, but I haven't played it. I don't know how I feel about that. And you know what? I've realized now I can't play every game, and having watched this made me realize I can experience games in other ways that other people have been doing for years.
Like, I have to do it all the time. I have to
Yeah.
do it because I can't play every game like at all.
Yeah.
I do not have the time to do that. And I will say if this year is a precursor to what's to come, the quality of games are just getting higher and higher.
Yeah.
I know that there are people out there like, man, the game industry sucks. And it's like games are terrible. I'm like, well, you're just not playing enough games because
what the fuck? God damn.
There's some bad games that come out. There are bad games that come out every year, and that happens.
I played some Modern Warfare 3. Sucks.
Yeah. Gollum this year. Yeah. Like there are duds. Don't get me wrong, and there's been duds for our entire lives playing games.
I played
but the quality of good games, the quality bar is just getting better and better and higher and higher. And studios like Remedy, who have a vision of like what they want to be, and I would say Remedy is, I mean, they're independent. Like they get other people to publish their stuff, but they are not owned or controlled by anybody else but themselves. Have shown that they're willing to take those shots and be that kind of like, yeah, we're wild. We're going to try this thing. Highly recommend playing Control. Control is a pretty incredible game.
I'm playing it
I would say
for sure.
It gets a little repetitive gameplay wise to a point, but story wise, my God, is it interesting. And again, shows that level of vision and care. And I don't think you get Alan Wake 2 without them doing Control in between. Like Control is definitely, I'm like, okay, I see the connections now. Like, so there's story connections, but I also see the connections of a studio like learning new things, pushing forward, and then being able to make something like Alan Wake 2. And you still have 2 DLCs for Alan Wake 2 coming out, so we'll see what that happens there.
Well, there was one thing that came out that you had shared. That's not one of the DLCs. That's just
No, New Game Plus just launched. That was just a patch.
Oh, okay.
They just added New Game Plus, which is what you beat the game, you play New Game Plus. Guess what? Things are different. It's not just the same game again. Of course, it's New Game Plus, and you keep your things. Things are harder, but story-wise, it's not exactly the same. Even from the opening, narration's different, the ending's different. There are bits and pieces between the new scenes added. To thematically fit what you learn at the end of the first playthrough. And clearly the end of that New Game Plus sets up like either one of the DLCs or as a setup for Control 2, Alan Wake 3 stuff in the future. So pretty incredible overall. And my God, this was a good year of games. Just our top 3. I'm just like, yeah, I can't believe they all came out in the same year.
Well, and those, I feel like before we got here, I was like, I know what our top 3 are. I just don't know what order we're going to put them in. And I didn't know what order I was going to put them in or what you were going to put them in. And, reflecting back, I said at the beginning of the podcast, we've been doing this 8 years now. This is our 8th game of the year talk. And I don't think any of those talks, they've all been great games, but have been so, not just lively, but like, I don't know what's going to happen this year. So it helped me with my math here, but I think my math is such that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has earned 7 points.
Yep.
Baldur's Gate 3 has earned 8 points.
Correct.
And that means that Alan Wake 2 has earned 9 points.
Correct.
And is our game of the
year.
It
is, and I'm okay with that.
What the? I thought this morning for sure it was going to be Baldur's Gate 3.
I figure. I mean, I didn't think it would be Zelda, but I thought it was either going to be Baldur's Gate 3 or Alan Wake 2 because it was going to fall on like a single point difference like this. And really, it's really funny. Those 3 games are 7, 8, 9 point added. Like they're incredibly close overall.
It might as well be 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. They are that close in my mind. I've never seen I never experienced such a strong year, but we hadn't talked about it, so I was wondering if Alan Wake 2 would even be on your list.
I mean, I went back and forth if I should include it because I only watched it, but I'm like, it has to be. Like, even just watching it, this game is like the game and the story was very affecting, and the fact that I wanted to sit through 20 hours of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, please, and I'm like devouring all the new game plus story stuff that comes out. I'm like, yes, give it.
Yep.
I want to see it all. Shows how much I'm like, yeah, I'm invested in this. I'm invested in where this goes and what comes next, and again, from a craft standpoint, I just hold Larian and Remedy at like showing what studios can do that have high degrees of vision and independence, and have toned their craft. They're not trying to just follow the market. That's what the market wants to make, or that's what people want to see. It's like, no, we want to make this game. This is our vision. This is what we want to make. And we believe people will play it. Because if we do a good job, people will play this game. But first and foremost, we want to make this game. And it shows. And I think that shows more than anything. Is that these are just games that they wanted to make.
The passion really comes out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, to recap, and I will ask you to do the same thing if you don't mind. My number 5 was Jusant. My number 4 was Super Mario Wonder. Number 3 was Baldur's Gate 3. Number 2 was Tears of the Kingdom. And number 1 was Alan Wake 2. And can you give us yours?
Mine, 5 was Octopath Traveler 2. 4, Final Fantasy 16. 3, Tears of the Kingdom. 2, Alan Wake 2. And 1, Baldur's Gate 3.
I feel like all like the passion in all those games on both of our lists is just so evident, and it really helps propel them forward. And there's, Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, there's certainly more to come in the next year or two with those games. Zelda, sadly, no. As far as
it'll probably be a while before we get a completely brand new Zelda, to be honest.
Yeah. We're going to get a remake before we get a new
we're going to get remakes and remasters for a little bit here, which is fine. I think they should take as much time as they need to figure out what, again, so that team or whatever the team's going to be working on the next, like, new entry in Zelda can find their passion of like, this is what we want to make. This is our vision for what Zelda can be. I feel like Nintendo will give them that freedom though. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. They took 6 years.
That's just important to Nintendo as a company. Like, they want those main franchises to have space to breathe for the big mainline entries. Well,
and that's why I think, at least, that's why Wind Waker has been held. That's why Twilight Princess has been held. I believe Grezza is working on Ocarina of Time for Switch 2.
Yeah.
Those will come out and will fill the void until we get to the new Zelda. Just like Link's Awakening did and Skyward Sword did on the Switch.
Yeah, I agree.
So there'll be plenty of Zeldas in between.
But holy crap.
Well, congratulations to Alan Wake 2, which was a game that was not on my radar until October. And it just took us by storm.
It's so good.
Yeah, so good. Anything else for the good of the podcast, Anthony?
No, I think that's good. It's always a long one, but it's always fun to talk about all these games and talk about all the good games that come out in the year.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks to all the devs and all the teams that put their heart and soul into these games and all the other games we did and did not talk about. It's been a stellar year. Looking forward to what comes next. Thanks to everybody for listening to our podcast throughout the year and throughout the years. Thank you to Anthony for joining me on this 8-year-long journey now. And looking forward to an awesome 2024. All right, folks. See you next year.
All right. Later, everyone.